Three-way match internal controls should be an integral part of every organization's accounts payable invoice process, yet they are sometimes overlooked. In this episode, we're going to examine 5 very basic accounts payable controls for the three-way match, which is part of your invoice processing. Make sure you stick around when we discuss the one three-way match control that is sometimes overlooked, leading to duplicate invoices, duplicate payments, and a lot of extra work for your accounts payable staff. Hey guys, I'm Mary Schaefer, founder of AP Now, the place where you go for all the latest business intelligence if you work in, manage, or have responsibility for the accounts payable function. So let's get started. Three-way match internal control number 1. You need to have rigid coding standards which tell your invoice processes exactly how the data should be entered. This way there can be no creativity, no misunderstandings, and no invoices getting entered twice. Because this way, if an invoice comes in today and you enter it, and 2 weeks later another copy of the same invoice comes in and I go in to enter it, it'll be pretty easy for me to identify it as a duplicate. So that's three-way match internal control number 1. Three-way match internal control number 2 is an important one, and this is to make sure you immediately, and underline immediately, extinguish purchase orders and receiving documents after you do your three-way match and it's been successful. You want to make sure that those purchase orders and receivers don't get used a second time. They don't want to hang around so somebody else can process an invoice against them. Now, some folks will wait till the end of the week or the end of the month to close out the purchase orders and the receiving documents. Don't do it. You want to do it immediately, because if you don't do it immediately, and in the interim between today, when you did your three-way match, and the end of the week or the end of the month, another copy of that shows up, it can end up getting processed and worse, paid. So that should be part of your immediate processes. Okay, three-way match internal control number 3. You want to periodically review outstanding receivers and purchase orders to determine their status and to remove them if they're not viable. Now, what is an old outstanding receiver or purchase order will vary from company to company. For some companies or some organizations, it'll be one that's been out there for 1 month, for others 3 months. It just depends upon the nature of your business. But periodically, someone should go through and review these old purchase orders and receivers that have not been matched and determine if they are still valid. Maybe they should have been closed out, but they weren't, or maybe that order was canceled, or maybe there's some other error, but it needs to be done. Now, frequently when this issue comes up, I'm asked, well, for example, with the purchase orders, should purchasing do it or should accounts payable do it? The answer is whoever has the most knowledge should do it, but most importantly, it should be done, okay? Not worrying about who is going to do it. And this falls by the wayside. I can't tell you how often. Okay. Now, before we get to our last 2 controls, if you like this episode, please give us a thumbs up. And if you loved it, please subscribe. We produce new content for the channel 3 times a week. Tuesdays and Thursdays are devoted to accounts payable and payment issues, and Saturdays off reserved for Wordle. Three-way match internal control number 4. Periodically, you want to verify that your processes are using the procedures that you have set up for them for processing invoices, and they should be doing it exactly as you have it documented in your policy and procedures manual. This doesn't have to be anything formal, but what you want to do is just, sit down with them. Don't tell them you're coming. Just sit down and watch them process, maybe for half an hour, and make sure that they're doing things exactly how you have laid out. What you want to make sure is that they have not introduced any shortcuts that might be a shortcut for them, but introduces a control weakness elsewhere in your process or makes more work for somebody else. Often this is what will happen. People come up with a shortcut. And by the way, if it's a good shortcut, then everybody should be using it, not just that one person. And you don't want to do everybody in one day so everybody knows that the manager's coming to review. Just go and sit with people, at odd times, but make sure within a 6-month or a year time frame that you sit with everybody on staff. And after a while, and you probably know this without even doing this, you'll know who is likely to have created shortcuts and who isn't. But periodically, you want to make sure you review this. Okay, our last three-way match control, it's a little bit long, but I want to explain it. Have a process in place that handles the timely resolution of three-way match failures. That's right. When we talk about doing the three-way match, matching the invoice with the purchase order against the receiving document, that's fine. We have it in our processes, but oftentimes people don't have what's going to happen when there is no match. Now, there are two parts of this tip. Number one, you need to have a resolution process. And then the second part, which we sometimes forget about, is this resolution needs to be done in a timely manner. If it's not done in a timely manner, you're apt to get another invoice because the vendor didn't get paid and they're looking for their money. So they'll send another invoice. Best case scenario, you catch it, you don't pay it. Worst case scenario, you don't catch it and you do pay it. And even if you do catch it, it takes extra work and extra resources that most of our accounts payable teams today don't have. They don't have extra people just sitting around to do this extra work, okay? So timely resolution. Now, if you need to know exactly what to do when you are trying to resolve what I call three-way match failures, when the match didn't work, we recently did a broadcast on that explaining what to do. You can watch it right now using the link that will appear momentarily on your screen on YouTube if you're watching it there, and is also in our show notes below. As always, we appreciate your thumbs up, your subscribes, your shares, and your comments. Good luck.